This is AfroEconomics Live. I'm Bryan, the President and Chief Investment Officer at Bryan Financial Group, the home of AfroEconomics, a registered investment advisory firm and one of the first wholly 100% Black-owned registered investment advisory firms on the planet. So when you listen to my voice, know that you are listening to the voice of a pioneer. It is because of you that I am able to do this. You believed in this. We are able to bring this to the planet. AfroEconomics is a strategic financial management program designed exclusively for the advancement of Black wealth in America and abroad. Make sure that you get the book and join. There is an absolutely free, no excuses membership. Now, that doesn't include the financial planning, but it definitely includes you taking advantage of everything that you can, online privileges. So make sure, yes, you be like Ms. Cotman and believe in that Black girl magic. I hear you, sister. No, I love you. I love you. I thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Jones, for logging in so early as well. Thank you, Ms. Witherspoon. Thank you to the entire Anderson family. I love y'all. Thank you to the callers. Thank you, Demetrius. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Barbara. I just appreciate you all so much. I'm going to come back. Say hey to the rest of y'all. Yes, indeed. But I had to get those who logged in first for being there and waiting for like 10 minutes for that 8 o'clock hour. Yes, I am so thankful that I have been consistently on time for our webinars on Wednesday. So what we can do is get rid of that little joke about the CP time. It is not applicable. AfroEconomics time is before time. Yes, we have been blessed. Right, Delia? We are on time. We are here for you. We respond to you. We are accountable to you. We are changing stereotypes and creating empowerment for our community. Because a key principle of AfroEconomics is entrepreneurship. And that's this principle 7. But principle 1 is legacy. And we're talking about that tonight. Our grandparents, right? So if you have any questions as I move through this subject area, if you're a grandparent or if you're a child or you're a grandchild, and I guess at some point we all go through all of those things. I pray that one day I will have the opportunity to be a grandparent. I just consider yourself blessed to live to see that. Delia has her first one on the way. Yes, indeed. She said her grandbaby's coming in September. A girl or a boy? Boy. A boy. I love it. Her son is having a son. I love it. Yes, indeed. So today's grandparents do not consider themselves financial supporters of their grandchildren. Isn't that something? Nearly 94% of those who do provide monetary help to their grandchildren, they still don't think that they are actually contributing to the lifestyle of their grandchildren. And I'm going to tell you exactly. I'm going to go to the survey so that I can fully articulate. So grandparents and financial support. 79% of grandparents do not consider themselves financial supporters, while 94% of them do provide some sort of financial support. So I guess what they're saying is that you're kidding yourself. She's like, even though you are providing it, you don't think that you are. And I think it's because you do these little things like keep them every Thursday, or keep your grandchildren every Wednesday, or keep your grandchildren for 2 weeks during the summer, and you don't see the value, or 4 weeks. Like I stayed, when school got out, my parents would take us to North Carolina, drop us off, and not come back until the week before school started. Now, my husband left our family when my daughter was 4 weeks old. So I have never had that opportunity to have that break. And I haven't told my mom though, but I should try that this summer. Now my child is almost 18 years old. You're gonna keep her. But early in the game, we were talking about I was spending like 50, I'm not even exaggerating, $50,000 of child care because I had a full-time nanny and a part-time nanny at the beginning. So imagine if I were living in the same city as my parents and I was able to get my mother to take care of my daughter. That would have been amazing. I would have saved, but she would not have saw herself as contributing to my household financially. But I would have been keeping at least $30,000 of that 50. I would have been able to keep. That was extreme. Yes, extreme. I mean, but there are a lot of families doing that. And in reality, if you have a nanny, it's not a lot more that you pay when you have child 2 and 3. It doesn't double. You mark it up some. But the biggest expense is that first child that you have, that first one. And it's like they kind of, I don't know why, but you don't have to pay. The nanny doesn't get paid twice or 3 times as much when they have 2 or 3 or 4 children. Like they be chasing down families with 4 kids, right? So grandparents do, on average, spend over $2,500 annually on their grandchildren. That equals about 179. This is according to this AARP survey. I'm not making this stuff up. That's equal to about $179 billion a year across the country, they found. And then the grandparents are doing this during their prime spending years. What would you think of like your prime spending years? Like we think that it's young, but really prime spending years are probably those years right after you retire. And you have this income and you have this time. And you're getting this guaranteed income for the rest of your life, and you just go, I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to work for this anymore, and you just take it for granted. But so they're spending this over $2,500 on average. $179 billion is coming from grandparents into this economy. And they're spending money on a variety of expenses like gifts for their grandkids, vacations for their grandkids, and just daily necessities for some families, and of course, education. So a big part of that is gifts. They said that the average spending on gifts from grandparents is over $800 a year. Get ready, Julia. 800. She's like, I already spent that, and the baby's not even here yet. Yes, indeed. That is amazing. So that the survey also found that 1 in 7 grandparents extend their finances even further by providing for their grandparents groceries, and the daycare. But 1 in 7 are, really extending themselves. Like it's not easy for them to do, but they're taking care. An even greater number of grandparents, 1 in 5, say that they spend money on their grandchild's college education or private schooling of about $4,000. I'm sorry. Yeah, $4,075, they say, a year. So 1 out of 5 are actually contributing to educating their grandchildren. And that's more. Those are the ones that are above that average $2,500. They're looking at $4,000 a year just for those extra expenses for education and college tuition. They're contributing that. So, and it was found that regardless of how much education the grandparents have, 95% of the grandparents surveyed said that it was important for their grandchildren to receive higher education. And they feel comfortable discussing their grandchildren's future and their grandchildren's dreams. And it's interesting because we spent the weekend with my mother, and she was like asking my daughter about like, what do you want to do next year? And then my mom was like telling me, she was like, well, because I was saying that I wanted to get my mom a new washer and dryer, and she was like, well, you can't do that because you want to, you know, you've got college coming up, you know, as if I haven't planned for that, you know. that a washer and dryer for her is going to stop me, but you know, she doesn't know, you know, what my plan is or how it is. So, but I have made a decision that I will never complain about my decisions of how I want to help my daughter get her education. I just don't think that it makes any sense when we complain about things that we have decided is a necessity. It's like, do you complain about going to the store and buying soap? You know, it's just, if that's what you set as a baseline and what you do, then how defeating it is to complain about that. And, you know, and I tell people that I love that very often, that I don't like when we complain about things that we've decided that we want to have as a part of our life. You know, if you want to have this nice home, you purchase that nice home, then does it make sense to complain about it? No. Or you want to be married and you have this spouse, you know, does it make sense to complain about it? You know, that's a decision. So, you know, that we have to, I think that it will reduce the stress, increase our health, and increase our wealth. The 10th principle of AfroEconomics, Black health, Black wealth. That if we stay healthier, reduce our stress, and then be very mindful about all of our financial decisions, which is why I feel like this was really important for grandparents, because sometimes you're making these financial decisions to fully engage into your grandchild's life, and you don't realize the possible negative impact that it could be having on yourself financially. So 7% of grandparents have taken on debt to help pay for their grandchild's college. Debt. And I've seen that, horror stories. I had a lady that I was helping, volunteering to help, you know, and she had to move out of her home because her grandchild would not pay the loan. So they started taking her Social Security check, and she was like, I really can't afford my mortgage anymore. And she had to move out and move in with her child who who didn't have the credit, so they couldn't sign. So she signed, but then nobody would help her make sure her child, not the grandchild. It was the grandchild's loan. The grandchild wouldn't pay. The child's parent wouldn't pay. So she was, you know, really messed up. And they will come after your Social Security check. 1 in 4 of the grandparents have co-signed a private student loan or incurred credit card debt that has not been paid back in full. 25%, 1 in 4. The greatest challenge is that 11% of grandparents who live in the same household, the greatest challenge is for the grandparents that live in the same household, and that's about 11%. 5% of the grandparents that live in the home with their grandchild are the primary caregivers. And 1 out of 5 grandparent caregivers say that the financial cost of being a grandparent can be too much, that it's a challenge for them. So, and then a lot of grandparents also have to pay for their travel to go see the grandchildren. That's an additional expense, depending on how many times you go to see them, right? And then, so according to the National Center for Children in Poverty, and this could be why this is happening, that children younger than 18 are more than twice as likely to be poor as an adult over 65 years old. So we have more poor young people than we have poor older people. So I think that older people have that financial safety net because they're getting that Social Security check, but most of them. but the children, their families may or may not be getting any type of financial help for them from the government. So the grandparents are basically stepping into that gap. And according to the survey, Black grandparents are more likely than their white counterparts to be spending money on their grandchildren. That's like 65% of the Black grandparents have helped pay for specifically education for their grandchildren, with only 53% of the all grandparents overall. So we're like, 12% higher that the need for Black grandparents to participate in helping with the grandkids, in specifically for taking care of those education expenses. So that's very important for us to realize. Wealthier Americans, it's a lot easier for them. They don't have to think twice about helping out their grandchildren. But the survey found that there was a separate survey by TD Ameritrade that actually found that 1 in 4 grandparents have dipped into their savings to give money to their grandchildren. And about 8% said that the desire to offer financial help to the younger generation has led to them putting off their retirement. 8% of those surveyed said that they will work longer because of the help that they want to provide to the youngest generation. It's a 52% of the Black grandparents, were said that they are more likely to splurge. The term that was used was to be a little bit, or likely to be a little bit more indulgent. 52% of, while only 30% of grandparents overall said that they're going to do like in extra stuff, luxurious stuff, like buy tickets to a concert, get them the expensive cut up jeans or cut up sneakers, stuff like that, because they want it. That Black grandparents are more likely to do that. Isn't that something? You gonna do that, Delia? Before the baby can walk, you're gonna get your grandchild some sneakers, some extra, the $500 sneakers. Haven't you seen that though?
Yeah.
And the baby can't walk, definitely can't run. Oh, now what could be done with that money, y'all, right? Even if you just gave it to the parents to pay off their credit card, because they're probably doing the same thing. Because, basically bad financial habits are inherited. The research shows that you just pass on that. If you pass on indulgence and luxurious and unnecessary luxury, you pass on that habit, you pass it on just like eating chitlins. You know what I mean? If you pass that on, they're more likely to do it. They said, what is that word? Chitterlings. Yep, it's a passed on habit. Now everybody is way too good to eat chitterlings. Nobody eats them anymore. I'm like, yeah, there's probably closet chitterling eaters, right? They're out there just eating them up. Oh my goodness. So let's look at some things I want to make sure that the grandparents that you are thinking about, first of all, I want you to make a commitment to not being a burden to your children, not doing things while you're healthy and never thinking about the worst case scenario. So you want to make sure that you have adequate insurance on yourself, adequate life insurance, adequate health insurance, adequate long-term care insurance, things that will take care of, you can't take care of yourself, of having adequate insurance. You could be spending $200-300 extra dollars on your grandchildren for things that they don't need. You just want to give them, and you're not thinking about the greatest thing that you can give them is your own financial security, so that you're not a burden to them. And then save for unexpected medical bills, because the Medicare coverage is getting worse and worse as far as the out of pocket expenses. The best thing, of course, we can do is make a commitment to making sure that we're healthy. Let's make it, and I have a workshop coming up too soon for Black health and Black wealth, because we really have to make that connection between we have to be healthy. Being sick costs us unmeasurable amounts of money, with not being healthy. So let's invest in our good health. So save your money for unexpected expenses. Did you realize that? Now, some things I just want us to think about why we need to save more for our retirement. Because as you age, the cost of everything just goes up. Like, you're going to need someone to help you clean your house. You're going to need someone to maybe buy your groceries or do personal services, for yourself. The older that you get, so you want to have that extra money so that you can get the help that you need. Let's make sure that you have a full understanding of what retirement really costs. Before I keep on my list, I'm just rolling, y'all. Y'all are making comments. Peace to you, Mr. Benta. How you doing, Kay? Thank you. I'm so glad you're great indeed. Thank you, y'all. And so back to our key points. So we want to make sure that we have a good understanding of what retirement really costs and how much you need to save so that you can take care of the expenses of being elderly and being retired and not wanting to go back to work. You don't want to find yourself babysitting during some prime years where you could be working, making some good money. And unfortunately, I see that a lot. Like, say you left $100,000 job and you stopped, and you didn't have to stop, but you were making $100,000 a year. You stopped. Now you start doing daycare for your kids for $100, $200 a week. Do you realize the kind of money you just gave up? I know that it's fun and everything, but just know, do you realize the kind of money that you just gave up? And then, making sure that you know how much money you have to have in order to create the kind of income that you need in order to live off of. So if you have $2 million in your 401k. That to me, that represents about $80,000 a year in income that we should be generating from that, anywhere between 80 and 100. Because you don't want to draw out so much that you have to take on excessive risk in order to just outpace your withdrawals, correct? So, in a perfect world, you want to keep your withdrawals around 4%. And then after that, you got to pay taxes on that. So we have to be conscious of that. If you have a pension, how much that lump sum that company has put away for you in order to generate that $50,000 pension or $60,000 pension. Be aware. And then the survey also found that 1 in 4 grandparents had, and I think I may have mentioned this, had dipped into their savings to give to their grandchildren to help them. So that even can be a burden on that investment that you might need to pay for your bills, but you're gonna have to even save more if you're trying to make sure that you are contributing to helping your grandchildren as well. So 8% of the grandparents said that they desire to offer financial help to this younger generation has led to them putting off the retirement. But I think I see more of the situation where you are making good income and you stopped working because you wanted to take care of them, or you slowed down your work, because you wanted to, or you could have gone back and got another job, but you didn't. More so than putting off the work so that they can help. Unless, of course, it's like, I'm going to keep working because I want to help for their college. That is the approach that I could definitely love to see you doing more. because if you continue to work, you can put off your Social Security income also, and each year past your full retirement benefit, you're getting that 8% pop-up in the Social Security. So, definitely there's benefits for you continuing to work a little bit longer than you expected. And finally, I want to add, please make sure as grandparents, if you want to pass on something to your grandchildren, put it in writing. Put it in your will. My grandmother's way, my grandmother would just say, oh, I want you to have some of this land when I pass away, and your mama will take care of it. But what if your mom doesn't take care of it? No, you have a responsibility, especially now, say on your IRA. It's easy for me to add a grandchild as a beneficiary on your IRA or on your 401k at work. It's easy to just add them on. If you want them to get something, put it in there. Do not, because a lot of this stuff incurs taxable events. So if you pass that on, just say it's a taxable retirement account, on to the parent has to pay all those taxes on it. And then you want them to give after they pay tax, give some to someone else. It's their child, of course, I get it. But just be mindful of putting it into writing. Doing a medical directive. Do you know how much of your money could be spent, like in the last days of your life, on just making sure, say if you had do not resuscitate, but you didn't put that in writing. So you're on this life support that may incur, some sort of daily living expenses deductible or something that you have to pay, and you end up taking out of your estate, say $100,000 because you lived another 2 years past what you really wanted to. You didn't want tubes all in you. You didn't want to live that way. You didn't want it because you weren't living from your perspective. So you have to have all of the legal documents set up so that you can have a medical directive on I do not want to be resuscitated, or I don't want, I don't want to spend that kind of money, or and how you want your final services, your funeral to be. Do you want $100,000 spent on your funeral, or do you want to be cremated and for it to be really inexpensive? Don't just say these things. Put them in writing so they can be done. And most importantly, because I had an uncle that he put me as executor for his estate. He died, but those who were closest to him never told me that I was on his paperwork. So they did everything according to what they wanted. He never gave me a copy of it. So I couldn't protect him. So all of his final services, everything was done totally against what he wanted. Totally. Only because he didn't share the information. So even if you set it up, make sure that you communicate what it is that you want. But grandparents, I challenge you to be very mindful financially. And for those of us who will be grandparents one day, you totally still have benefited from this. And then we have a head start because this conversation, is real. This is real. So we have to realize that the best thing that you can give to your children and grandchildren is to not be a burden to them, to be financially responsible for yourself. How you doing, Marie? How are you, Miss Douglas? Yes, indeed. Thank you all so much. And look at that. Wow, we have quite a few who called in tonight. I'm so proud of y'all. That's so cool. I'm glad that you did it. That if you can't log in, use the call-in number that is provided with the information once you register. So you didn't have a lot of questions, but I appreciate you. And please email me later, let me know. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Thank you, Mr. Sakara. Thank you, Mr. Benta. Thank you to the Anderson family. Thank you, Ms. Spike. Thank you, Mr. Yancey. Thank you, Mr. Brewster. Thank you, Ms. Sweden, Mr. Clinton. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Ms. Booker, Ms. Walton, Mr. Jefferson. Miss Bolden. Yes, indeed. Oh, wow. We even have a special guest, Rebecca, hanging out with us tonight. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Douglas. How you doing, Bryan Freeman? Tell your father I said hi. Yes, indeed. How you doing, Kathy? I'm so glad you participated. Yes, indeed. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Montgomery, Ms. Smith, Rashawn. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate y'all. Have a wonderful one. And please, I will post this so that you can share it with your with everyone that's important to you. Definitely. It will be on YouTube soon. Thank you, Ms. Douglas. You said what was needed to be said. Well, Maurice, if you say that, then I know it's right. Strength, courage, and wisdom. Mr. Jones. Never forget it. Thank you, Cricket. Y'all have a good night. Be blessed. That's so good. It's great. Everything is great, y'all. Thank you. Every one of us is worthy. I know your life, I felt your pain. I know your joys and your shame. Sometimes it feels like life walks over you, or like you're a penny on the ground. But either on the ground or in your purse, the smallest piece still holds its worth. Every one of us is worthy. Baby,